A couple days ago, Anthony and I went to a forest nearby. We love to do this whenever we need to get away. A change in scenery, especially from cold walls to the lush of nature, is always a wonderful choice. Without a plan for where to explore first, we started on our journey. I find that I am most at peace in forests or nearby beaches with distant horizons, places that my mind can wander for hours without speaking a word. Of course, we do speak to one another when we go, but more about what is happening in the moment. A furry piece of moss thick against a stone, sinking soil that makes you feel like you may go under any minute, or spots of what I like to call breathing earth, which is actually when the roots of trees move to support the swaying of tall trees, and the ground looks like it's rising beneath you. Speaking of roots, I've decided to change my name again. Not my actual one, but my business-related one. Originally, I went by Poetry and Canvas, but I have started to be troubled in my mind about this. There's nothing actually wrong with this name. I think it captures what I do very well, but it leaves out who I am, and this is a big problem for me. I am learning a lot about who I am, even if I thought I may have figured that out a decade ago. I am learning that I change. My interests, appetite, appearance, friends, and even my homes change every now and then. I find that I am becoming more of myself as time goes on, especially if I am unashamed to be this way. Often, I am afraid to be who I am because of how I appear or because of how confident I might talk. But my reality is that, as assertive as I am, I prefer soft-spokenness. Even more than this, I prefer silence. Unless we are exploring the mind of any living thing, that I can talk about for hours. I am not incredibly interested in being a boss babe or an independent black woman. I seriously loathe that phrase. However, I am in pursuit of a peaceful life. I want to be able to do the things that make the cynics cringe, to breathe with the forest, float on still waters, to observe all the wonder that is around us naturally. I mean, have you ever looked at a mountain, a really grand mountain, and been able to get enough of it? There were these mountains where we used to live in Marseille. You could see them right from the highway. The first time we saw them, we were in awe, but after some weeks of driving between them, back and forth, we got more and more accustomed. But I never stopped wondering what their view was like from another angle. On another road, you could see the shadowy areas with more cliffs, and from a small trail, you could see how the road winds and bends between the two mountains. Still, their presence was overpowering. The view was most extraordinary from the top, of course, and this was another wonder to behold. I am a huge sucker for wonder, especially in nature. I can't take it in enough. But this week, I had one of those nights where memories of being mistreated plague me. Because my disability is invisible, I often get tested by individuals, whether authority or not, to see if I am being honest about it. Usually, the first thought in my mind is, I wish I was lying. Not because I want your sympathy or your pity, I honestly despise these expressions too, but because it's true. Most people don't know me before I had this disability, and so they may think that I should be fine by now or that I'm faking it entirely. Well, what I have is permanent, and even if I struggle sometimes, I am okay with it. It's a part of me I've accepted, but I cannot accept mistreatment. When I was in elementary school, there was a girl that was obsessed with popularity and was irritated by my ability to quote unquote beat her in competitions. That is, things like spelling bees, mathathons, science fairs, and even basketball. And we were on the same team. Ironically, I could care less about being top of any of these things because my focus was on discovery and having fun. But when the teachers weren't looking, she did not fail to remind me how I was much less valuable than her. Most of the time, I just felt sorry for her. I have no idea what it's like to become so obsessed with someone else's successes that I make it my mission to surpass them. I'm often too busy in my own little world. Regardless, her words of degradation, just as those of people who discriminate against me now, come up at the least convenient times, such as 2 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. I've just been praying for relief from these memories, less burning in my chest from the breath that gets stuck from overthinking, or less stinging in my eyes from tears threatening to fall, all from remembering how I didn't say the best thing I could have to hurt the person back in that moment. Well, the thing is, I'm not like that. I will steadily and clearly demonstrate that respect must always be the main exchange, and if the other party refuses to engage respectfully, then I leave the situation entirely. I am not always confident, loud-spoken, or extroverted. In fact, rarely so. Most of my childhood and teenage years were spent in my room reading, drawing, singing, or talking to myself. My mind is a vast world on its own, and honestly, I find I am best when I can talk about it or exist just doing things I love. So, Roots and Rivers is the new name. I find it explains clearly who I am, a critically deep thinker in search of peace, mainly in nature around me. What I do is only a small percentage of that, but who I am is all the reason. I hope you enjoyed the last video that I did. Again, I played guitar again in the background. I like doing that. I wish I had my keyboard because I feel like I would be able to do some gentle piano as well, but when that time comes, I will do that for sure. The mountains that I was talking about in that video were a consistent place for us to go and visit. The roads that go between them are extremely windy, bendy, and honestly, it could make you sick if you are not a huge fan of the car. But when we were able to start hiking and get the nice views from the top, when we were able to see the ocean or the entire city or the entire village or just the valleys, it was so nice. So nice. The camera, I don't think it does much justice, and I don't even have a fancy camera, but seeing it in person is something else. If you want to, I don't know, who knows where you're at in life, but if you're able to take yourself on a trip or go with your family, one of the places I would recommend in that area is, I think it's a place called Côte de Mer or Côte de Mer. It's like next to the sea, basically. It's a little bit more south than Cassis, but it's a very nice location without many tourists, to be honest. So if you want to be able to kind of get that Mediterranean experience without being crowded by tourists or being scammed by con artists, that's a good place to go. There's lots of forests, lots of places to hike, and lots of places to swim as well if you really like the water, like myself. Lastly, I wanted to share with you guys a new book that I got from a little bookstore here around where I live, and it's called à la poursuite, des animaux arc-en-ciel. It's a book by Sarah Ann Jux. I will put the names there, and Sharon King Kai, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And if you like a little bit of whimsy, child stories, almost like a fairy tale, but not princess falling in love with prince typical, this is kind of a book for you. It's about a girl having a single mother who has a mental illness and lives with her mental illness. And she sees a bunch of different little whimsical characters, animals, and things like that. Whether it's hallucinations or not, I have no idea, but the story is pretty phenomenal so far. So the book is in French completely, and I'm reading it on purpose so that I can improve the reading aspect of my French. And honestly, I was actually fairly okay with reading French when I was in school. We read okay stories. I wouldn't say they were anything extremely memorable because I don't remember any of the titles. But of course, I did like reading books and writing stories in any language when I was in school. So officially, there is a part I would like to read. And it goes like this. La porte de la chambre de maman est fermée et la maison est complètement silencieuse. Il n'y a pas si longtemps, sa porte était toujours ouverte. Elle l'a laissée entrebâillée pour moi, pour que je puisse la rejoindre dans son lit si je faisais un cauchemar. Elle me serrait fort contre elle et me laissait réchauffer mes pieds glacés contre les siens. Tu es courageuse, Nora. Tu es la personne la plus forte que je connaisse, me chuchotait-elle à l'oreille. Je serre dans ma main le mot qu'elle m'a laissé et je fermais les yeux. Avant même de le voir, je sens son museau glacé qui renifle mes chaussettes tigrées. Mon renard arc-en-ciel. I love that. And then the next part. So previously in this chapter, her mom left her a note to say that she should go visit her friend. And then she left a note for her mom. And the paragraph before says this. J'arrête le micro-ondes juste avant que la sonnerie retentisse et je répartis les lasagnes dans 3 assiettes. Une pour moi, une pour maman et une pour le renard qui éternue quand il la renifle. Ensuite, j'écris un mot pour maman et je le coince sous son assiette que je dépose devant sa porte. Elle la trouvera quand sa tristesse lui laissera assez de répit pour lui promettre de réaliser qu'elle a faim. And the note says, Maman, moi aussi, je t'aime, Nora, avec un cœur. Then later, in the next chapter, she says she got dressed and she's ready to go to get up for the day, and she goes to check on her mom and the food that she left in front of her mom's door, which is what I just read. And she says, Sa porte est fermée et l'assiette de lasagne est toujours devant, avec mon petit mot. Elle n'y a pas touché. Je tends le bras et m'appuie sur la porte. So there she reads that her mom didn't open the door to eat any food or to see her note or anything. Yeah, it's kind of sad, but at the same time, I feel like this would have been a great book as a preteen or even younger than that, because here I think she's 11 maybe. Just to understand what mental illnesses are, and having a family member, somebody you love very much, living with a mental illness, and trying to understand it and cope with it. This is a fantastic book for that. Anyway, I'm thinking of doing some readings of it on my Patreon and a little bit on here as well. So if that interests you, let me know. But that's it for this week. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, wonderful weekend, and I'm wishing you all room to be yourself on this side of the world. Adios.